Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to SP Reviews, where today we're going to be checking out an album from an act named Greg Barnett titled Not All It Seems Redux. If we switch over to here, you'll see me, I'm quite big on the screen. And we have the album art here as well, which is fantastic. I think we can put that there. Can't do it here because this is the first, or the previous album that I reviewed from Greg Barnett, the Flat White album, this 30 track one, which was really good. Yeah, I'm just struggling. I'm gonna put it here. There we go. That way you can still see that it's Greg's work. And Not All It Seems was actually a reimagining or it's another go at an album that Greg made, recorded and released around nearly 20 years ago now, considering it's almost 2022. Because he started working on his music and wrote or co-wrote his song at the age of 50, which is a pretty solid achievement. And this album was initially released in 2002, and basically Greg wanted to have another go at re-releasing this with the skills that he's developed over the last 20 or so years. And here we are today listening to the second go at it, the redux of it. So we're going to listen through this album from start to finish. I'm going to... Not All It Seems by Mike Levy and Greg Barnett. So Mike Levy features on a lot of these different tracks, and specifically Mike Levy, the music and lyrics were by Mike there. So that's all good. And yeah, we're gonna go through this album from start to finish. And I'll be taking a break at the halfway point just because at the moment it's a hell of a day, but I'll make sure I get this done when I need to. So yeah, let's begin with Fields. Greg Barnett and Mike Levy. Cool, I'm liking the tone of the guitars here and the arpeggios that have been played, whether they're fingerpicked.
In a while you meet a soul who stands out cool and calm, a rock in a turbulent world, a shield against the storm. But look out of the window on fields and sunny skies. Something unexpected could hit you right between the eyes.
Charming. I am glad to be refamiliarizing myself with Greg Barnett as a singer and as a musician. Melodies that have been played on the guitar are charming, and they match the texture of his voice really well. Oh, we've got some harmonies, vocal harmonies.
The stars keep circling by. Say those words, your thoughts, your feelings before the evening tide.
Okay. All right. Some strings in there as well.
Most of your life. Sometimes.
Oh, a bit of a dark turn there.
Through your hands and eyes.
Slips through your hands and dies. Damn, man, it's making me think. It's making me sort of question my own existence.
Life is just a streak of luck. It's really just a game. We're all tumbling dice, remarkably the same. Some remain in motion.
It's nice to have these higher end strings come in later on in the composition to add development and points of interest.
Some just seem to stand. Others swept up early by a quite indifferent hand. The world spins round.
Oh, the drums are coming in.
Change.
They're great.
The stars keep circling by. Say those words, your thoughts, your feelings before the evening tide.
Yeah, fantastic layering there. Really warm and... Oh, nice little string instrumental section there.
made the most of your life.
Revisiting that idea, good.
Sometimes it slips through your hands and eyes.
There's a hint of sadness I can hear from the way this is sung. Considering this is from 50, now that Greg is approaching 70, this would kind of be a sort of potentially a visceral experience. Hopefully Greg's been able to make the most of his life. Oh, lovely little guitar solo here. Fairly minimalist, I like that. Sticks to accompany the other main concepts within the track.
It's really not uncommon, so you should.
Ooh, some shakers on the left.
A simple life is shattered. Life opens up your eyes.
Ooh, fantastic vocal technique there. Excellent touch there, I really enjoy that. Great. No, a lot of love for that. Fantastic introduction to it. It really makes you think, because it's true, life can really sweep you out from underneath your feet at times. And I can only assume for that to be the opening track on this record is for Greg to be so for that to be something that he's been considering personally for a while, and to sort of be having a moment of introspection that he wanted to reimagine and carry on to this latest release. Fantastic though, great work, Greg Barnett and Mike Levy so far. We've got Ferry to the Island. Got a bit of Foley there, got the fog, the horn. That's what I like about Greg Barnett's work, is that he doesn't just limit it to the music and the vocals, he also adds atmospheric elements that they really increase the engagement, the chance of engagement and the enjoyability of the experience. Enjoyability? How enjoyable it is.
Ferry to the island, you leave it all behind. All that stuff that seems to matter and can get off your mind. It floats away like foam on the outgoing tide.
Guitar-led and vocals. I'm assuming there will be a theme.
And the worries, you throw them all aside.
Another instrumental break here. Reasonably complex little set of arpeggios and guitar lines we have here.
Carbonics,
It was such a slick transition into those drums, eh?
chatting up the girls. Dad sits back with the weekend sport.
Eighth note groove with some 16th note elements in the rhythm.
But we all go where the wind will blow, the salt spray in our eyes. See the mangroves slipping past and pelicans in the skies.
I heard that extra half bar in there.
To the island,
Ooh, a parallel minor.
away.
Ooh.
Ferry to the island, nothing matters anyway.
Oh, what a lovely major tonality that I ended up with. Oh, a little bend there. Sassy, dude. Oh, we got some synths in here? Man, that would have been a huge change in the accessibility of sort of plugins and synthesizers between like 2002 to 2021, right? The landscape's changed entirely. For the better, for the most part. I don't know about the subscription services, but these plugins aren't thousands of dollars anymore. Okay, returning to the fingerpick guitar. Some nice rim shots and open hi-hats in there.
Sunshine where it never seems to rain. The waves roll in on a sandy beach, time and time again. You float and roll just like a whale, see dolphins cruising by. Lie flat on your back and drift a bit into the deep blue sky. On the ferry to the island, the world just slips away. On the ferry to the island, you know sometime you'll stay.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to interpret this track. On the one hand, it gives me sounds like there's a bit of a warning about traveling to the island. My interpretation initially of that is that it's someone who's got a fix or a vice that they keep returning to when they're struggling, and that the stress melts away with that, and that if they're not careful, that it may eventually swallow them whole. Is that a electric keyboard or something on there? Lovely resolution there. It sounds mystical with these synths. Oh, a rubato finish. Ascending. Oh, nice little natural harmonic finish there with the ship taking off. So again, there's a bit of a warning in there, but I think ultimately you're off to a good time. Alternatively, it might be that there's a better way you want to do things and you keep returning to that, going away from it. We've got Not Mad now. What do we got here?
There's nothing here for me no more. Don't say you're sad and that you feel so bad. You cleared my things and left them at the door.
Oh, charming. There's a clear understanding of chord harmonies and the notes involved.
You've made your mind. You don't
Oh, okay. We got a dominant seventh. Ooh, there's some.
Give a fond goodbye if all we had was just a lie. Things don't seem so good for me.
Oh, wow. Okay. Fascinating.
Can't say I'm mad about it, baby, 'cause you're not loving me no more. Why did you say what you did today? It cut me down and knocked me through the floor.
Alright, so this is obviously about a relationship that isn't going particularly well.
Love costs a lot.
There's like a bittersweet nature to it, but there's also some other interesting notes involved with this. Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that.
Please don't tell me who the guy it is you're going to.
Okay, well that's fairly straightforward.
Ain't looking good for me.
Oh.
I remember not long
Some R&B elements that are interesting.
the whole world was in my hands.
I like that part there. That was a gorgeous little rise that we had there. Again, there's all these little unexpected elements that are atypical of the experience that I have with a lot of the music that I listen to, and I enjoy the fact that Greg Barnett plays with expectations.
Is spinning much too fast. Nothing seems to last for long.
These jazzy transitions are pretty on point.
Is it me that's not quite right, or is something else going wrong?
16th note groove on the shakers of the hi-hats there, pretty charming. And a choir in the background there. A speed and increase in the tempo. Where are we going with this? Is it a chaotic reaction to what's occurred? Oh, that those accents on the snare are pretty dope as well. Chord and no groove despite the 16ths and the 8ths. Lovely reverb tail on those snares actually, along with a bit of back compression.
say I'm all that mad about it. Got no friends who'll come around. I'm racked with pain and I'm going insane. My life is wrecked in pieces on the ground.
Oh, that's so sad.
Will things look brighter in the morning? What can I trust to still remain the same? I take an optimistic view, but what damn good would it do? Is it bad luck or me to blame? I remember.
Hey, we got these backing vocals coming in, or rather these harmonized vocals coming in. Interesting. Yeah, he's telling some really great stories here. You know, obviously not all of them are especially pleasant to listen to. I don't like hearing that Greg is in this kind of agony, but at the same time, it's told in a way that makes you want to hear more. And there'll be people that relate to this kind of stuff, you know?
I felt the whole world was in my hand.
Yeah, some people make you feel like that, and then they just go, man. They just go.
Spinning much too fast. Nothing seems to last for long. Is it me that's not quite right, or is something else going wrong?
Oh, wait, that's a grandiose finish here. Big finish? Big finish. These trumpets are pretty on point though. They're nice and bright in the mix. They're peppy and charismatic. Some are taking turns coming on the beat and down them off. Ooh. Oh, okay, yeah, I wouldn't have expected that to go there. Some fairly progressive chord progressions and bass lines going on here. And we're finishing with that guitar as a guitar-led album, but I'm glad there's these additional synth and brass elements to it. It's great fun. I'm enjoying my time with this record so far, despite the time that Greg is having with pondering his own life and whether it's slipping away, you know, potentially dealing with vices and struggling with loss of relationships. It's a brutal experience so far. Cappuccino with Greg Barnett and Mike Levy. Oh, we got that French, an accordion. Oh, coming in with the whistles. Claw hammer technique.
This morning need my cappuccino to get those gray cells circling round.
Oh no. I can relate to this.
Company, the real cool cats from all over the town.
I hate how true it is. I dislike how true that is.
Earl Greys and Cabernets, the conversation's loud. The dulcet tones of mobile phones gotta be part of.
Hang on. Sorry, there is a side button on this mouse and it just decided that it wanted to play there. And we'll continue from here. I'm just gonna... Here we go. I can just do this. Sometimes I'm like, am I actually a functional human being? There we go. Oh boy. Figured it out in the end. Oh, the cappuccino crowd. I can't tell if we're being genuine or taking the mickey out of it.
Greeting friends and strangers with a wink and a smile.
Oh no, we're being serious, I think.
And pastries, savories and tasties, discretionary spending with impeccable style. A lot lattes and canapes, nothing ordinary is allowed. People waiting for the tables in designer labels wanna be part of the cappuccino crowd.
Charming. Yeah, I think he is kind of having a bit of fun with this this crowd. I mean, well, I was 11 at that point. I wasn't really drinking coffee at that stage, but I do remember people used to go and meet up for coffees all the time. Still happens now, but it's Starbucks.
Pretty girls in a social world, exercising freedoms and self-esteem. Always time to chat and to chew the fat. It's so passé if you're not part of the scene. Sipping cold beer with a phone to your ear, eager to make a splash. Following the trend to spend hours on end, and all of your cappuccino cash.
Cappuccino cash, man. It applies to a lot of different things nowadays. Push, social pressures, etc. You're not successful unless you can buy the fancy coffee. Drums coming in now. Oh, they've been in for a while, don't get me wrong. I think. Oh, I'm tripping now. Oh, a minor turn.
Disasters don't affect your choice of afters. The cappuccino froth helps you get through the day.
Oh, I get it now.
Hours unsavory for certain. That's why we draw the curtain and the talk gets turned up loud. A private cafe where we turn a blind eye to despair and move on with the cappuccino crowd.
It's a catchy melody. That's going to be stuck in my head for the rest of the day. Thanks, Greg. All that rise there with that accordion. Key change? Up a step. We're getting a little bit more energetic, a little bit more vibrant now. He made a serious point, and now we're back to the do. He kind of like sassily just came in, made a point about how redundant all of it was because it's just a distraction from the real problems, and then played some guitar and just walked out. And I love that. I adore that. It was such a gentle kind of introduction to it. It was really clever storytelling because it's like, oh, look, we need the coffee to function. Ha ha ha. Isn't that hashtag relatable? And then he talks about people and designer labels waiting for the coffees and trying to be like everyone else. And then he brings in like the big problems and how people are just using it as a distraction because they can barely function without a coffee. And yeah, clever stuff, Greg. This is probably one of my favorite songs off of this album for that. Yeah, wow. Seasons with Mike Levy. I think if I'm not mistaken, the words and the lyrics were the music and the lyrics were written by Mike Levy. Again, I'm loving this guitar work. It's very charming. This fingerpicked it adds consistency across the album.
I remember summers long with rivers.
Oh, this is Mike Levy singing. Oh, wow.
Like a painting by John Constable in a soft and golden light. Evenings long.
Oh, maybe this is Greg.
And full of
Hang on a minute. It's a slightly different timbre to Greg's voice. It might be Mike Levy singing. I will note that this is the one track that was kept from the original recording just because I think they really liked it.
Twilight slow to fade. Faces there from long ago. Good friends that I've made.
There have been developments made across the last 19 years, I think. but it's still very, very good.
Leaves and autumn browns reveal an ending phase to life and song and memories and long hot summer days.
Why is my camera recording? Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna be using my camera today.
Memories wearing thin, confusing where we're going with places that we've been.
Confusing places that we're going with places that we've been. Really articulate fingerstyle guitar though, well played.
I recall the winter's cold with snowdrifts soft and deep, hearing children laughing, their happiness complete.
It's a beautiful song, and then I like the slightly different vocals in this track.
Snow banked up against a wall, the north wind's icy chill. Home fire warmth or searing cold, the choice before us still.
It's nice to have the guitars on the right.
Cold of winter breaks and life springs up once more.
Okay, so we're just talking about the seasons, the various elements of them.
Colors and new harmonies as hope begins to soar.
Yeah, winter's pretty depressing, isn't it?
Winding lanes meet city streets, village turns to town. Lives made and lost in every place, we reap what we have sown.
Oh, so we're not just talking about the season, we're talking about human beings and how we develop things, like our villages and the towns and stuff like that. How we grow and what we kind of put in place so that we prosper later on. Yeah. The harvest of sorts. Lots of instrumental breaks like this throughout this album, and I have a lot of love for that. You know, you can space verses out.
I was born in a pleasant land of fields both rich and green, where folk of ancient lineage say everyone is free. The smoke from ancient battlefields is fading from our minds, and the present and the past combine from another place, another time.
Yeah, it's nice to have the guitar coming on that right side. Initially, when I was listening through this, I was like, why is the guitar in the middle with the vocals? But there was a conscious decision to try and shape it across, and I dig that a lot. If I go back a little bit just to hear this verse one more time.
From our minds, and the present and the past combine from another place, another time.
Present and the past combined. Okay, so this track was about what happened before and how history repeats, or how it works towards what we have now, and just appreciating it or mourning it or accepting it. Yeah, just how time goes on, and it's a kind of Mike Levy's interpretation of it, and I have a lot of love for that. I think it's fantastic, you know. The theme, not all it seems. Yeah, you know, not everything that we have now is as it seems. It's a product of years, if not decades, if not centuries, if not millennia. You know, it's kind of crazy to think about how we have literally millions of years that have come before us, depending, of course, on your viewpoint of that. I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, stunning stuff. And then we have Clay Shapes, track number 6. My last one for this particular recording session. Oh, is a Peruvian flute. I dig that, it's great. Considering that the flutes are usually made of clay, aren't they? Oh, that was a dark turn, wasn't it? Alright.
A potter's hands are filled with love as he gently shapes the clay, dreaming of the fanfare when the client comes to pay. But are his efforts worth it? Does he really have a say? No one's to blame, they cannot be the same, and all see the light of day.
Alright, where we're going with this?
Glisten and sparkle at the front of the display.
Not a massive fan of just sh on the side. It sounds like there's quite a lot going on, but
Ones are at the back, gather dust where left to lay. Some have jagged edges that easily draw blood.
ooh, no, that sounds horrific,
By
man.
his might, the potter's skill produces bad and good.
Ah, yeah.
Air and
Because no matter how much you try something, it's not necessarily always going to be purely good. I understand.
are mixed and hit the wheel.
Unintended consequences,
Destiny
right?
is shaped by luck as well as skill and feel. Effort, time, and patience are invested in each piece. But some will pale and even fail, while others form with ease.
Charming mix. I'm liking all the different elements now. I'm starting to get used to the shakers a little bit.
Like the potter with his clay, I have a child today, full of joy and laughter as I guide him day by day.
Ah, so we're equating it to
Can I
tits.
tell what's deep within? Are there cracks to break the spell? Working hard to form a fine young man, but only time will tell. Will
Okay.
he glisten and sparkle, go out and seize the day, not holding back to gather dust while others have their say, gaining strength of purpose, never wanting to draw blood, an independent test of will that chooses bad or good. Same
Oh.
clay, air and water are mixed and hit the wheel, but destiny is shaped by luck as well as skill and feel. Effort, time, and patience are invested in each piece, but some will pale and even fail, while others fall.
There's tension parts which align well with the specific part of the stanzas that we're listening to. Emphasis on some of these notes is interesting as well to break up the different lines. Yeah, again, this synth, the pads, strings, it shows that, you know, not all as it seems. Not all it seems. Not all it seems. I swear if I have not said not all it seems. Because I've been thinking not all as it seems. If I said not all it seems at the start, I'm gonna be grumpy. I trust myself. Usually I read. Oh, we're going down bum 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 with the minor third intervals.
Some glisten and sparkle and just take our breath away. Others hide their beauty deep inside, but is still the potter's clay. There is no blame to dull the shame not forming like it should. Despite his might, the potter's skill produces bad and good.
Wow.
Despite his might, the potter's skill produces bad, produces good, produces bad and good.
Wow. Yeah, no, that one's got me thinking for personal reasons. You know, stuff isn't great between my dad and I at the moment. And, you know, I kind of wonder whether some of the stuff I haven't done in my life that I want to is because of how I was brought up or just because of inefficiency within myself, you know? This is the kind of music that's important because it gets at the listener actually thinking. And the moment that you have the listener thinking, it means they care. And the moment the listener cares about music, you've got them hooked. And that's really important with songwriting. It was cool to have the clay sounds with the flutes there, and the illusion of like the comparison of clay to a child. That makes sense to me. Yeah, I don't have a lot else to say about this track. I kind of feel a bit sad now. But that's not because of the music. It's just because of stuff. Great song though. All 6 of these tracks so far have been fantastic for different reasons, but ultimately the production, the instrumentation, the music performances, and the singing, and the stories being told are all distinct, memorable, and respectable. So I'll be back soon. See you soon for the second part. All right, and we're back. We're back with the second half of Greg Barnett's Not All It Seems Redux album. We've got Home, number 7.
If home is where the heart is it somewhere that I've been? So many friendly faces and places that I've seen.
I'm loving these jazzy transitions again. I know I said this in the previous part of the video, but I just love how you can never entirely predict where Greg's going to go with these progressions. I really
I
don't.
think I'd know by now, but I can tell for
Lovely
sure
ballad feel to this.
exactly where my heart is. I can't tell you anymore.
Well, there's a little bit of tension to that chord there. The one just at the start of that stanza at the anymore part.
What is this thing that keeps me moving on?
Who knows, man? Who knows?
Follow the moon and chase the sun. What else can I hope will thrill my soul and stir my heart while my heart beats still? For as long as I remember, I couldn't face routine, a stirring need that burned inside to see things I'd never seen. So many folk along the way I loved and left behind. As I moved to new horizons, to some new thing I had to find.
New things I had to find. Kind of reminds me of Ferry to the Island. This is more of a personal journey. You know, you've got to find a purpose and follow it through, even if you're unsure of where you end up.
What is this thing that keeps
We've
me
got some
moving
choirs.
on?
Yeah, what is that thing? Lovely call and response strings there.
Follow the moon and chase the sun. What
Lovely imagery
else
there.
can I hope will thrill my soul and stir my heart while my heart beats still? I no longer had to look.
Ah, we got a bit of a turnaround after the little interlude there. Very nice.
And see my life as if it were a book. What was really lying there, just hidden by the view.
Oh, lovely little grace note there.
Is where the heart is, and now I know it's true.
That's good. No vibrato, but we're holding that
You
note.
are, 'cause my heart belongs to you.
Oh, charming harmony there. Oh, a little bit of tension before the resolution there at the end. Lovely ninth chord there as well. Gorgeous. Home is where the heart is, my heart belongs to you. I get it. So regardless of our journeys, our travels within this life, we know that we're safe with that one special person, you know? I get it. Lovely song, Home. Not all it seems, apart from when we know where we truly belong. Pleasant Land, number 8. Very rare to see a song below 3 minutes from Greg Barnett, but that's okay. We got some hand flute stuff coming back.
I was born in a pleasant land of fields rich and green, where folk of ancient lineage say everyone is free, and the smoke from old battlefields was fading from mines. The future was a beckoning for all humankind. But this view of Camelot was...
I'm loving this olden days kind of medieval ages harpsichord combo with the lute that's got on.
To fade. My rose-tinted glasses got lost in the shade. I saw
damn.
cracks in the facade and saw veneer peel. Unreal expectations that hard hearts could feel. Is
some finger drums.
there a land that claims to be free, where people live in harmony and equality?
Oh, a bit of a shuffle going on there, that percussion there, Greg.
Despite wars down the centuries, we've hardened with age. Still fists are thrust in faces, contorted with rage. Minds have proved weaker than religion or skin.
Minds are weaker
Can
than
any
skin.
land be a pleasant land with such anger within?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There were songs in the Flat White album, I think, which cover similar themes to this, discuss the anger of human beings and the struggles that we have, and the hypocrisy that we share, wanting world peace when all of us are just so furious a lot of the time, you know?
Is there a land that
Excellent.
claims to be free, where people live in harmony and equality?
It's interesting to have the percussion done like this. It's less of a foundational one and more of an accompaniment. You got the groove, the triplet da 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 da. No, that's not necessarily a triplet groove, is it? It's like 6/8 or something like that, or 12/8.
Now I've come to a pleasant land, the fields wide and brown, where folk from all around the world tour the country and town. But some have brought old battlefields and refused to forgive, and stoked the fires of enmity on the streets where they live.
Oh, people are coming in to miss their own things.
That claims to be free,
There are some
where people live in harmony and equality.
he's got fantastic diction. The way that he pronounces these words is so clear, and he's got great vocal technique, which is fantastic. Like, considering this is his, it is a reimagining of the original album. I think it's stunning, really.
Where people live in harmony.
Oh, there's a bit of staccato feel to those harpsichords there.
equality.
Oh, again, we finished nicely here. I feel like if we would have finished on the minor tonality, that might have been just a little bit too dark. So I'm glad that we avoided that. It's a great move on behalf of Greg Barnett there. There is a hope that we can move towards harmony, but there's also a distrust of people to be able to sort of not screw themselves. Fantastic instrumental performances, by the way, throughout this album. I haven't really spoken about that too much. It's just I make the mistake sometimes of when I've listened to a previous album and I'm aware of the finesse and expertise on display. I forget to remind people that that also applies for this track. I am hearing the different guitar, the various different elements, the composition, instrumentalism, and the different parts are written very, very well, and give an image of the kind of mood, the vibe that Greg is trying to put forward. I think it's great. We got Listen by Greg Barnett and Mike Levy. I'm praying that I got the album name right in the intro. Please, not all it seems. Oh, it's nice to have these distorted guitars. Is that a slide guitar or something like that? With the clean arpeggio guitar on the right?
Sometimes when I'm feeling down and blue, I feel a need to pray. Emotions fight within my mind, forming words I never say. Won't someone listen to this voice inside? Strangled words that slip and slide.
Oh.
Avoid my grasp but never heard.
He's at the top of his vocal range, getting close to it, but he's handling himself well.
Smiling eyes hide the pain inside.
Oh, this is what Listen's about.
Strain to hold back the tears. Casual conversations get me by. They don't reveal my fears. Won't someone listen to this pain inside? Confused emotions trying so hard to hide. Buried deep, don't see the light.
Yeah, people are being honest with themselves and sort of putting up walls, and you know, we got to try and listen to each other, right?
And listen to what I'm trying to say. If you care to look, I'm an open book, so please don't turn away. I can find
lovely
some
work
peace
with
of
the drums there.
mind if you can help my friend. If you listen to these messages I'm trying so hard to send, trying so hard to send, I'm gonna get there in the end. Sometimes the mask begins to slip and my demons start to play.
Damn, alright, so we're gradually developing the idea that there's a little bit of a hiding of emotions, hiding of the true self involved in here, and okay, alright.
The sun and you won't come and rescue me from the darkness of the day.
Oh, so we're like talking about like mental health issues or something like that, like
Won't
depression or something.
someone listen? Release me from this hell. Behind these walls that I built so well. My voice
Lovely
is
work on
loud,
those
but
16th
you
hi-hats.
don't hear.
Yeah, because you're calling out, and sometimes people just don't hear the words they need to, you know?
Won't someone listen to what I'm trying to say? If you care to look, I'm an open book, so please don't turn away. I can find some peace of mind if you can help my friend. If you listen to these messages I'm trying so hard to send, trying so hard to send, I'm gonna get there in the end.
I'm liking the story that's being told so far. I feel like I've got the general gist of the track so far. I'm enjoying that additional vocal layer on the left side there. That had an interesting tonality to it. Ooh. Guitar solo. Smart move. Love the raw feeling to this track. Yeah, fantastic work with those slide guitars there. We got some jingle jangles. Kind of sound like natural harmonics, don't they? Great, fantastic so far. I'm really liking this. Yeah, it was. There's been some interesting topics that have been discussed throughout this album so far, and I think this one it was important. The music a lot of the time is fairly neutral, despite the occasional show by a parallel major or minor that wouldn't usually be within a key sig. But it's there to kind of tell a story of something potentially quite deep and kind of intense without it being overwhelming completely by having the additional context of the music being really in your face. I like the fact that we're working with that nuance like that. Gonna Get You, track number 10. See, this is different to what we had before, and I like the fact we're experimenting with that organ.
The rising change in temperature is a clear and present threat. Asteroids and viruses are enough to make you sweat. Bad men rise into the top while we just bend down the and pray. You can do your best to make it stop, but you'll meet your end one day. Something's gonna get you, it'll get you in the end. It may be quick, it may be slow, you'll never know just when. Grow, rise up, but a constant pull exists.
This is very different to what we've heard from Greg Barnett so far. We've got a person at the front of a podium with a stand, talking with a choir behind them, just preaching their message there.
To cut you down, stab you in the back, and slash you at the wrist.
Ooh.
Butter was not good for you, but it's come back from the bin. Red meat was a no-no, alcohol a sin. Everything is harmful when it's put within. At least you can be comfortable, you'll not die too thin.
You'll not die too thin. Oh, we got a swingish kind of groove vibe to this. I dig it.
Tea and nicotine have had their share of bile. The experts offer other things that are nothing short of vile. Is there such an X-file which we've not been told? Our parents were untouched by much to stop them growing old. Something's gonna get you, it'll get you in the end. It may be quick, it may be slow, you'll never know just when.
Ooh, yeah. I like the social commentary, it's great. Yeah, you got like the image of like people clapping and dancing along to the track like they're doing some of those sort of church videos that you watch.
It might be in the water, it could be in the air. You can't smell, see or touch it, but it must be everywhere. It's right there behind you, for God's sakes turn around. You better move on fast, my friend, before the scythe comes down. A little exercise is not enough, too much will break you down. Keep your newborn baby clean, don't let it touch the ground. Your water comes in bottles, flies avoid isn't quite so good. Something's gonna get you, it'll get you in the end. It may be quick, it may be slow, you'll never know just when. Grow and stretch up all you can, but a constant pull exists to cut you down, stab you in the back, have you slashing at your wrist.
Yeah, man.
A moving song is hard to write when you lead an easy life. A home, a car, 3 meals a day, lovely kids and wife. Bad things go down round the world, you hear it every day.
We're slowing down and we're kind of getting real about the situation despite all the chaos around us.
How could you ever think that things were really not okay? Something's gonna get you, it'll get you in the end.
Yeah, this is an interesting sort of, I think we talked about seasons perhaps. I know cappuccino, but we talked about not being aware of the bigger options, bigger issues, and sort of focusing on ourselves and our kind of scene. It's a fairly dark one, this. That funeral march, I dig that, I like that. Mixed in with some slide guitar. 12-bar blues? Alright. It's a fairly bluesish, to be honest. Get off the old feet. Hard hitting, man. Hard hitting. Oh, we got a fade out. Oh, gonna get you. That was an interesting track. I wasn't expecting that with the intro. I think there might have been Mike Levy talking there. It was kind of surreal, really. Makes valid points. It kind of seemed like it was parodying a lot of these issues and the focus on them as being the end of days, you know. I liked when we slowed down and talked about how really when we have all the basics covered, we're probably going to live a lot longer than if we're constantly paranoid about stuff. But yeah, great work. We've only got 2 tracks to go, which is kind of wild. Pulled apart. Oh, this is very charming, isn't it? It's very gentle. I'd say there'd be some DI'd guitar, wouldn't it? Stunning work with the fingerstyle here.
My kind of girl is a friend through good and bad, who shares my every little up and down. My kind of girl knows that I laugh although I'm sad, and I can be a child although I'm grown. Some kinds of girl chew you up and spit you out, never stop to even count the damage done.
Damn, man. Savage.
Some kinds of girl only ever scream and shout, they're never satisfied until they've won. I'm the kind of guy who ain't ashamed to let you ask about all the little things that get me down.
It's great to be open about that kind of stuff, right?
The guy doesn't hide behind a mask, even if it means I have to be alone. Some kinds of guy like to preen and strut around, not a care about the folk they brush aside. Those kinds of guy never listen for the sound that's heralding the turning of the tide. If you know what's go.
It's nice that we're kind of sorting ourselves out amongst all the people, and he's being honest about himself as a person and what he needs from a romantic partner, and I kind of dig that, you know. It's good to be open and honest, right?
Please can you tell me
Oh, a nice bit of charm in that major chord there.
before it's gone, so I can help you see. In my kind of world, the days are bright, the air is clean, and children walk the world and feel no fear. In my kind of world, there's no hiding what you mean, and laughter is a common thing to hear.
Yeah, it sounds like a really healthy situation. He's kind of contrasting that with the expectations of other people outside of his world.
But in your kind of world,
Oh,
people
damn.
whimper, whine and moan. They want much more than they can ever need. It's a sad kind of world where people feel much more alone, sacrificing lives to feed the gods of greed. If you know what's
World apart.
going on, please can you tell me? I want to go before it's gone, so I
This is clever stuff. I enjoy the stereo panning here. It's great to show the distance between them. Fantastic work here, very creative.
Can't we put our worlds together?
Charming.
Oh, we won't last too long. Hold my hand through stormy weather, and we'll be strong.
So the aim is to eventually come back together. He's just kind of figuring out where he's at in regards to the men and women in his life and what the general, like he imagines a world where things are better than they are in the other person's, and he wants to invite them over there and take it to a place where things can improve. I get it. Even if he's be alone sometimes. Yeah, it's charming. It does. He manages to mirror the situation in a way with instrumentation and composition is fairly emotionally neutral, unless there's something again that needs to be really stuck out. But it's so lovingly textured, and again, like there's a sophistication to the songwriting that I really appreciate here. The unpredictability of it combined with the understanding of different colorations of the triads and extended parts, and the way the different instruments and timbres, interact is just fantastic. We've got two mines though to finish off. Well, we're gonna finish off this. How we're gonna finish this off? Excellent work. Is this an instrumental? This might be an instrumental, I suppose. Oh, strings. Oh, this is how we're finishing off, is it? Great, great, great. Let's keep going. It's nice to have these strings that are contrast to the guitar parts though. Oh, drums and honky tonk piano. With a lovely strong bass line at the bottom. And bringing forth that theme and developing it in a different way, cool. A combination of different instruments that were played and performed throughout this album. Cool, cool. Oh, interesting going into the straight 4/4 groove there for that end part with 16s. And going back to the triplet swing. How do you come up with this stuff? You know, like, how do you come up with this music, especially as a, like, even with the help of Mike Levy on some of these tracks, like, how do you come up with this stuff? It's mind-blowing that this was the debut album, you know, back in 2002, and this is the reimagining of it. It's timeless stuff, man. It's fantastic. Kudos to Greg Barnett on this. Excellent work, fantastic, great, stunning, excellent way to finish off. I'm not entirely sure what we were wanting to say with Two Minds, as obviously it was an instrumental, but it was a charming, charismatic and energetic performance that tops off a really fantastic album, you know. I am glad that I took my time with, Not All It Seems, Redux. I'm glad I did, because I think if I tried to squeeze this in all into one listening section, it might have been too much. There's a lot of different material in here. Each of these tracks has an individual sort of uniqueness to it that you really need to appreciate in small bursts, There's a lot of different stories told here that you want to hear more than once to get the full understanding of. I think that's the power of this music, is that it's not catering to people who are sort of simple, I suppose, who want something kind of spoon-fed to them. You've got to kind of take it in carefully and make the most of it, and do what you can to really sort of like be a great listener. You have to be an attentive listener with this kind of music. And Greg Barnett, as well as the work from Mike Levy, fantastic combination here. I'm glad that we had the opportunity to redo this. It's obviously been, the production recording quality, like a lot's changed since 2002. And considering the quality of the Flat White album, I am unsurprised with what I've heard today. It's fantastic. There was a lot of growth in the Flat White album between this one and this, between Not All It Seems and the Flat album. Don't get me wrong. There weren't as many of the longer form factor songs like the 11 and 8 minute ones, but that's absolutely fine. I think that Greg Barnett said what he needed to. As a singer, he's got a very distinctive voice. He's got a lovely timbre to it, and he's got a great way of like neutrally communicating, whilst also like there was a little bit more sort of inflections and grit in this one, and it was very measured performance and calculated it, but in the best possible way. We knew where to put a little more intensity and where not. It was lovely to hear some of Mike Levy's stuff as well. He's obviously got a different kind of voice, but he sang very well as well, and I've got no real complaints about either of the performances there vocally. The instrumental performances were on point. There was it's very, very interesting guitar work going on amongst the other elements there. It would have taken a tremendously long time to be able to record and produce and mix and master this album and write the material for it. But in a way, I'm very glad that I had the opportunity to listen to it, because it's not something you get to do all that often, is to listen to an album, especially in this day and age, especially for someone to do a re-recording of it. And I'm glad that I got to listen to this after the Flat White album to see where it all came from. And I'm hopefully Greg Barnett is happy with this album as well. I'm sure that he will be. The recording, mixing, and mastering was fairly on point for the most part. There was a noticeable difference between Seasons, which was the 2002 version, and this one. There was just a bit more polish to a lot of these tracks, and I think that just comes with the experience that Greg Barnett has gained over the time as a recording musician. But you could tell even from listening to Seasons initially that there are glimmers and hints of what was to come from that, and I think it's fantastic. And I'm glad that Greg Barnett and Mike Levy got the chance to work together on this record. All in all, I think that when we talk about sort of looking back on our lives, trying to figure out where we came from, the relationships, trying to understand people who can't communicate as well as maybe they need to, raising kids to be good people, seasons the way the life changes and us not taking enough notice of it, Cappuccino, us focusing maybe on the wrong things. And there's all these different interesting stories that got told here, different tales. And Greg Barnett told them so eloquently and with a charm that I think is unlike a lot of the other people I listen to doing these reviews. I have a lot of respect for what Greg Barnett's attempted to do here, and I think it's been a success. And that effectively is my review of Greg Barnett's Not All It Seems Redux. Hopefully you enjoyed this album. If you did, please do go show Greg Barnett some love via their various social medias, and I'm sure they're on Spotify and all that. And stay cool and stay safe. Please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. Catch you in the next review. Spider hands out.